I say let's go ahead and get started.
Yay!
Sound good to you?
Sure does.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to Crafty Adults. My name is Rachel Woolley. I work here at the library. For those of you, if you haven't joined us before with Crafty Adults, it's a popular series we host several times a year. Each session focuses on a different creative project that can usually be completed in about an hour. I don't think the scrunchies are going to take quite that long tonight, but we will be doing those this evening. We're making scrunchies without sewing. Our crafty business librarian, Madeline Wolski, is going to show us how to make hair scrunchies using fabric glue. Before I pass this over to Madeline, I do want to go over some webinar logistics. We have some options at the bottom of your screen. You should see the chat and the raise hand functions. For comments and questions, we'll primarily use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. We'll read the chats out loud since the folks presenting, in this case Madeline, won't always be able to see that chat. And then there's a button down there next to that that says raise hand. If you want to ask a question for the group to hear, so if you'd like to speak out loud to ask that, you can click that raise hand button and we can unmute you. And then at the end of the webinar, if you want to share your individual projects, so if you want to show us the scrunchie that you've made, we can do that as well. Just let us know if you're interested in doing that. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to Madeline and she'll get us started.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel. So my name is Madeline. I'm the business librarian here at Champaign Public, and I am subbing in for Laura tonight. And I'm really excited about No Sew Scrunchies because Laura and I have actually been making scrunchies for quite some time. So we both have our own businesses, and she has been selling some amazing scrunchies and headbands. But I'm wanting to share with you guys how easy it is to make them. So I'm going to go quickly and switch my camera over to our handy Elmo. Elmo part 2. Great. So these are my hands. Fantastic. So now is a great time. If you have an iron and if you want to use an iron to get that plugged in and ready, we can kind of see, nope, she's this way. Oh, wait, okay, Rachel, I'm gonna quickly make mine the spotlight. There we go. Okay, so you've gotten your Scrunchy Adults recipe card, essentially. And if you want to use an iron this evening, now is the time to plug it in and get it ready to go, since we'll be using it early on. And while that's getting warmed up, I just wanted to show 2 scrunchies. So this is one that I had made with Laura when she was showing me this no-sew method, because I am only used to the sew method, especially if I make, like, I have a lot of scraps from quilting or whatever, I can sew them together at home and then make scrunchies out of it. So it's a really great way of using scraps and also looking fantastic. So let's go ahead and get our bag. So I have this one right here, and go on ahead and open them up if you have not done so already. And we're just taking this stuff out and putting it on the table. So in each packet, you'll get a selection of fabric. We have here 4 or 5, 3 or 4 of varying sizes. Let me move that more into the frame. This amazing tear mender, which is kind of my new favorite thing. It's honestly worth this whole Crafty Adults crafting.
It is pretty impressive.
Yeah, we have 2 safety pins, and lastly a bit of elastic. So first things first, and this might be the hardest thing of the whole Crafty Adults scrunchie time, is picking out the fabric that you would like. So earlier, I guess, let me see what we've got here. You'll notice all of these fabrics are a cotton blend, and that's really to work with the glue well. It has kind of a loose weave, but go ahead and pick out your favorite. I'm excited to see all the variants. I know Laura, she had purchased a bunch on Spoonflower, so lots of really fun patterns. I think I'm going to go with this darker one to start off with roses. But once you're ready, you'll notice that this is already a very large piece of fabric, and we're going to cut it smaller. And if you think about it, your scrunchie, if you fold it in half, that's the width of what it will be. So to pull this one on for size, I made this one quite thick because I like a thick scrunchie. I think they're fun when you wear them on your wrist. And I'm actually going to keep this larger width. And I would also recommend to everyone else start off by making a larger scrunchie and then moving down to make something smaller, just because it's kind of easier to glue this all together if it's a bit larger. So what I'm going to do now is simply match up my edges on one side. Oh, and putting it all together. And it looks like someone said they only got 2 pieces of fabric. I think everyone actually only got 2 pieces of fabric.
I was thinking yours had a lot in it compared to what the normal kits were like.
Right,
but yes, everyone should have at least 2. And I think everybody got a little bit different fabric too.
Yeah.
Like you said.
And I think really this is just, I did also only get 2 pieces of fabric. It's misleading though because of the Technicolor aspect of this gorgeous fabric. So I have my ends matched up here and my long edge matched up pretty well. It's not perfect and that's perfectly fine. And I'm going to cut it off at about 14 inches. And this is up to you. You can make it longer, but I think starting something off a little bit shorter is going to be a bit easier. So, and I'm just eyeballing this here, but that is about 14. Granted, my spatial reasoning is not the best, but we're going with it. So I have my like karate chop right where I think that 14 inches is, and we're just going to cut. Easy as that. So I have my part that I'm not going to be using. And now I have my 14 inches kind of here. So we now want to essentially glue the wrong sides of this fabric together. And again, for those following along today, if you have a sewing machine, you can absolutely duplicate all of these steps with a sewing machine. We just wanted to provide you with a plan B in case you didn't. So we've got all this glue here. So I am now, what I just did was match my face fabric together. So face side sandwich, essentially. And since this rectangle, it's not a perfect rectangle, and that's perfectly fine. But what I am going to do is try to find the, I guess, the narrowest part of my fabric and match that seam up. So my fabric's kind of like it's out and then it goes in a little bit in the middle. So right where it's narrowest, that's where I'm matching it up. And I want to have straight edges. Oops, let's go this way on the sides. So I have that all matched up. And the next step we're going to do is, oh, nope, you know what? I lied. I skipped the most important step that was unique to Laura. I'd never done it this way before, but it makes so much more sense. So this is the time where we grab the iron, or I'm not going to use an iron. I'm just going to use my fingernails. So this is kind of the short edge, and I'm simply just folding it. This is creating a seam that we're going to be using later. And I'm going to use my nail and just trying to indent that as much as possible. And I apologize if me forgetting this step has confused anyone, but essentially what I'm doing, I have the front of my fabric face down and I folded, and this is probably just about like 3 centimeters. I just have that folded in and I'm creating like a little seam. So when I open it up, you can see that there's like a significant dent. So my fabric is currently facing down. I folded it up. So Rachel, did someone ask a question?
Yes, the seam goes on the face down side is what they're asking. They're confirming that that's what's happening. So the seam will be, you'll fold like Madeline is doing. You put your outside, your design on the bottom.
So face down.
Yep.
And so now when I fold this up, that's the front of the fabric that I folded up. So the seam, we haven't made the seam yet. So I'm weary to use that word because I don't know. I think I would be confused. So really, this is a future seam. It's not a seam yet. So if you see it here, and I think you can actually see my whole thing. And it is a little confusing because my fabric is 2 different colors. But yeah, you're just folding that on top. And if we turn it over, you can see this is the face of my fabric that's going to be facing outwards. So that's the facing outwards of the scrunchie. So once we're all done making those indented seams, pardon the excessively large sleeves, now we are going to fold this in on each other. So I have my face side folded in. So you can actually see the back of the fabric is facing out now. And let me know if that was confusing. And you can see the seam here and here, the almost seam. But we have hot dog. I'll leave it like this. So now we're going to use our glue. And Laura chose this glue because it's actually really easy to clean up and it's very simple to use, although I'm going to ask, you don't have to do this, I'm going to do this. So shake it up a little bit. And this glue is pretty watery. It comes out pretty quickly. And the cool thing is, yeah, you can see it just kind of dots everywhere. You just rub it and then it cleans up. It like turns into like Play-Doh almost. It's the craziest thing. So really easy cleanup, but yeah, you can see it on my hand how it's kind of just this, I don't know, it makes me think of those slime kits you made in 3rd grade, but it does come out pretty quickly and it will stick to the fabric really well. But I caution you from pressing too hard and maybe just seeing if you have some like extra that you don't think you'll use at all, maybe just doing some tests, some smaller lines, and I can kind of show you all how that comes out. So I'm just kind of pulling it, trying to make it as small as possible. So really not doing a lot of pressing because that's kind of the biggest I want the glue to come out to be. And let me rip this glue off that I had too much fun spilling out. All right, so now let me know if anyone has any issues with their glue, if they've shaken it up pretty well, and unless Rachel says anything, let's go on ahead. So obviously we're going to, or not, maybe not obviously, but we are going to be gluing a line connecting these 2 surfaces together, but we are not starting right at the very edge. We're going to start to the side of this folded up fabric. So this will kind of be open. So I can show you. And we're also going to do this in small, probably about 4ths, just so we can retain a bit of control with where we're gluing. So I just have this folded up. And I'm going to start. Wow, I chose a rather awkward angle, but we're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. Okay, so I'm just pulling it and I made some droplets. But this does not have to be perfect. I just want to make sure it's not so thin. You can see where I stopped. And if I push it down and push it down, it's a little tacky. It does seep through the sides a little bit, which again is maybe a reason why you don't want to use an exceptionally large amount of glue. And it is pretty tacky. It takes just a little bit of time to dry. Like I would even say right now, it's a pretty good bind. It's nothing that I would want to pull, but it makes a great glue to use during Crafty Adults and other projects. All right, so I'm going on to the next portion and I'm pulling it open a little bit and it's already kind of sticking together, which is amazing. And so I'm just going to keep on gluing. And I'm curious to hear, are people getting along pretty well? Are they terrified of this mysterious glue that is easy to clean up?
So far, no questions in the chat. I think everyone is just following along.
Oh, nice. Okay, I'm about halfway done. And I'm just slowly folding this over again, just so I can retain some control. But I'm also letting this fold that I made earlier just kind of guide me. And sticky tacking it up.
It does come out so fast, even when you're careful.
I know. And also, I mean, the fact that I'm pressing on it, it's adhering to my skin and not necessarily the fabric. So I would also recommend, I mean, we're doing the first one mainly just to learn how to do it. It's going to look amazing, obviously, but I would say if I were doing this and I had more time to spare to really let it dry, I think I probably would just use like my fingernails or something just really light to pat it in instead of trying to get it to dry faster. And what I'm doing like now. All right, so continuing on. And pushing down. That was better done, Madeline. Good job. And I'm going to finish it up, but again, making sure I'm not going to the very edge. I am going to stop right about here. Okay. Excellent. Okay. And while that's working, I'm also going to just talk a little bit more about this glue because we're going to let it dry for a quick second. So Laura did mention she has washed these scrunchies in the washer, and remarkably enough, this glue actually does hold up really well. She has used it on clothing as far as like if you maybe have a hem and want to just glue it up on a pair of pants, skirt, whatever. She says this actually works really well for that. You just don't want to use it to fix tears that might be right on a seam that's going to hold some weight. So like a waistband after you eat thousands of nachos would not be great for tear mender. But it is washing machine safe, which is wonderful because I find myself washing scrunchies quite often because I think it's my cat who's putting them in my dirty clothes hamper. Which is very rude of her. But that's where it ends up. Okay, and I'm just kind of smushing this together. And you can kind of, if you feel like that wetness, that moisture, it's not totally there yet. So I'm going to give this about 1 more minute. And if other people are waiting, I'm also really curious to hear how many here used to wear scrunchies and then were super excited at the fact that they came back in fashion recently. I guess not recently. Would you say, Rachel, the past year?
I feel like I've seen them a lot more. Yeah, we've got someone in the chat all the time, and oh yes. Yeah, I remember it was like the accessory for your wrist in middle school for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I never wore it a lot on my wrist just because I have massively huge hands and wrists, and they'd always be so small, which is why I'm so excited to make them because I can handle my hefty wrists.
They can be whatever size you want them to be. Yeah,
it's so exciting. Okay, so let's leave that to dry a little bit longer and let's go ahead and grab our elastic. So speaking of large wrists, if you want to use your wrist as a way to measure out, I recommend doing it, especially if you think you'll be wearing it on your wrist. You can also, so I'm just gonna just test it and see what feels right for you.
Madeline, there is a question or a comment
Oh,
in the chat that they couldn't get the glue out of the bottle. Do you have a particular recommendation for that or any possible troubleshooting? I know it can get gummy on the end of it.
I do. So here's a brand new bottle. So first off, you do have to kind of turn it to the left. So lefty loosey, righty tighty. And let's see if that worked for my bottle. Nope. So I'm going to open it up. And you know what? Since I was using a glue bottle that I've been using, I totally forgot to tell you guys to take this portion off. So huge apologies on my end. But yeah, there is a seal there. And then I'm going to twist it back together so I can shake it up. And throw that away. And if it's still clogged up, which happened earlier with me, I used a large safety pin to simply grab a hold. I saw like a dried up bit at the top. I just picked at it and pulled, and it was very satisfying to do that. Did that help? I'm going to assume if it's silent, they're probably quickly Googling.
Yep. She says yes, so I think we're making it.
Okay. And so let's go back to the elastic. Did someone else say something, Rachel, or?
No, just a comment about another participant cut off the very tip of the glue applicator with a pair of scissors, and that seemed to help too. So
that's a great idea. Well done. All right, so let's go back to elastic. So I like to measure it around my wrist. Also take into consideration if you are going to be putting it in your hair, is it going to be easy, especially if you have maybe like an idea of how big you want it? What's that going to feel like if you can twist it and do that? Do you think that's going to keep your hair up? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But also, we're going to be tying these. So we want to allow a little bit extra just for that knot. So if I have it around my wrist, I'm going to leave, because I'm not the best at tying knots, I'm going to leave a good inch, and I'll probably leave about a ½ inch on the other side.
And there is a question in the chat, what do we do after gluing the seams? So right now we're just letting that dry, and while that's finishing drying, Madeline's measuring her elastic. So you haven't missed anything. We're just measuring the elastic now for the next step.
Yeah. And so thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Now once you have the size that you need with about an inch, if you're, depending on how confident you are with tying knots, I'm going to leave about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. And also take into consideration, if you just want to make, you can also, this is sized out pretty well. If you just want to cut it right in half, that works too. And I think I might do that just because my is about that right size. And I don't want to waste any elastic. So yeah, simple snip. And we're going to grab, let's see, this is feeling about ready. Perfect. We're going to grab one of our, I'm going to grab the big safety pin, open it up. I'm going to double up this because it came open a little bit earlier, and just thread it through and close it. So I just kind of doubled up just so it has a more secure I don't know what the word is. A secure stance
connection.
Attachment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is take my safety pin. I'm also going to hold the end of this in between my pinky and ring finger, just so I kind of just have that there. And I'm going to, so here it is again, I just have it pinched. And I'm going to thread the safety pin through my tube. And since we just glued this side, it's still a little delicate. It takes about 10 minutes to cure. I'm gonna pay more attention to this fold here. And that's what I'm going to be touching, is this opposite fold, but holding on to this end with, just so it doesn't get lost in there. And I'm just putting it through. And it's nice because I know the safety pin has my elastic, and it's easy to feel that going through as well. And I'm almost at the end.
Madeline, do we need to flip the fabric right side round first, or is that after?
You are correct. We should do that now. Thank you, Rachel,
You're
for
welcome.
helping me teach this class. I appreciate you so much.
I'm sorry I didn't catch it sooner.
No, really. How about next time I can present or no, you can present and I'll host when our Crafty Adults superhero Laura is no longer here. So we're gonna flip this right side out. So the easiest way, again, focusing on this fold here because we want to kind of treat this a little delicately. So what I do is simply put my index finger in there, and I'm going to smush this down onto my index finger. Again, being careful with that seam we just made with our glue. Rachel, I can't believe I forgot to turn it out.
Hey, this is a pretty new process for both of us, I think, at
I'm
least with the
glad.
glue. So,
all right, and I'm gonna wait a little bit just so everybody can get their scrunchies on their finger. And I'm gonna turn this into a bit of a hook. And what I'm gonna do is just make it go inside out. So I have my bottom here, and I'm just folding it upwards. And it might just, it does take some maneuvering, but I'm just kind of pushing it in a little ball. And then once that's in the ball, I just slowly start pulling it out.
the glue is holding really well.
Yeah, no, tear mender is a great tool. And I'm also using my finger to pull through a little bit too. And there we go. And you can kind of still see those seams or those little edges we'd initially made. Nice little tears there, or not tears, but intentionally not glued together.
And you are tucking that extra bit of fabric back in to keep our seam, right? So we
Yep.
have the end seams.
Absolutely.
That's going to be a pretty one.
Yeah. Okay. And do we have any questions? Do we need to, I'll wait a little bit. But now is the time. We brought our elastic through. And fabulous. So I'm going to go ahead and do this unless I hear otherwise. And again, I'm pinching it in between my pinky and ring finger, just so I can keep a hold of that edge. Oop, this way, Matt. Nope, this way, Madeline. Okay. I don't know anymore. You think hold right in here. So when I pull it through, it's not going to just get lost and drowned in my scrunchie. So pushing it in. And here we go. I would also recommend if you want to make a smaller scrunchie in the future, because you're going to be making it, you're going to be adding more tension since there won't be as much space. You would, I would recommend waiting until you're 100% confident that the tear mender glue is dried before putting it inside out or doing other steps. All right, so we should have our elastic through the scrunchie or through our tube. And I'm going to take off my safety pin and I'm just going to double knot it. So again, I had left about an inch because I'm not the best at tying things. My husband's an Eagle Scout and I rely on that.
So he can tell you like the names of all of the different knots and
Oh
everything.
no, he just does it for me. I hand him the scrunchie and I'm like, all right, Eric, fisherman's half loop double edged sword knot. And then he'll do it. All right, so it's one knot and I'm going to add another one in there. Perfect. And I'm pulling also on both of the sides, making sure she's not going anywhere. Cool. And once that's tied, I'm just going to tuck it in. Tuck the knot in the scrunchie itself. You're more than welcome to trim if you'd like. I typically don't bother just because there's so much space in here and no one's going to know. Great. So I'm going to wait a quick second if we have any questions. Otherwise, we are on the final countdown, guys. Very exciting. And while we're waiting, I'm just going to clean up my edge seams a little bit. So making sure that that fold I had made is just is a single fold and not like bunched up. And same with the other side, just kind of prepping it to glue it all together. But I think we're ready to go ahead. Rachel, what
No
say
questions
you?
so far. I think you're good to go.
Fantastic. Okay, so we are essentially going to be gluing those seams together. And we will have some space, remember, because we left out a little bit of an area. So that'll be helpful. But I'd say the best thing to do is first open up. So we're going to find one of those splits. I guess not the split, but what would you call this part? Your Y? We're all
I
about
think
finding a
split's a
good
good
Y.
word.
Yeah, the split.
Yeah.
And I'm finding the matching split on my other side. This was smart on my part to get a scrunchie that had two different colors at the end. And I'm just going to be matching them up. So I'm going to turn this one around a little bit more just so it's perfect because I want that seam on the same side. So the seam that we just glued together, I want to match up that seam. So with the front of the scrunchie, and I'm going to try to make so you can see it. This is what I'm going to be matching up. That front edge with that other folded front edge. So you can see the fold that we had made earlier is going to be kind of our boundary line for the glue. So what I like to do is, again, we're going to work in small sections. And you can start at that front and go forth. So I'm going to, again, just use a little bit of glue, but I'm going to go right underneath that folded line that we had made initially. I might do like a test dot just to be, okay, yep, we can do it. We can do it, Madeline. And again, being pretty conservative with your glue. And I managed to drip on my scrunchie quite a bit, but that's fine because we can always fix it later. And then I'm just going to match it up. And I'm pushing it together to create that beautiful seam. Okay. And it also might be worth noting, Laura is able to use this glue like a pro, but if you're super drippy like me, you might want to look into some Q-tips or toothpicks. I could see myself using a toothpick quite nicely. All right, and now I'm just pressing it, making sure it's pretty well adhered, and then I'm going on to the next step and very excited to learn that the glue that I dripped went inside of my scrunchie, so we won't see it. Well, for the most part, at least, you can kind of see my drips. I wonder if I can use that drip. So yep, that drip did not go on the inside of the scrunchie. Sad day. But I might be able to make it work by just kind of tucking it in. So that's a way of kind of cleaning up a bit of a mess, is just moving that seam a little bit inwards just so it can cover up that adhesive.
And does it dry clear? It looks like it does.
It does dry clear. Let me grab this one. So this is the first one I made with Laura. And yeah, you can't really see it. Here's some, I guess this is as exposed as it gets, but you can't see it. Yeah, so yeah, pretty clear. You can notice a difference in texture, but it dries clear. Okay, so I'm just going to continue gluing this around. And it's all kind of about taking your time, seeing where your glue is going, and matching it up. So since again, I dripped my glue all over a place where I shouldn't. Normally I would just be gluing the seam, but I am gluing a little bit over just so it covers up that area. And you can do this too by just seeing how it'll look like by opening up your scrunchie a little bit and just seeing how it'll look like, oh, bada bing, bada boom. So since I'm going to overlap here, I think I actually might start on this other portion of the Y and meet that drip in the middle. Has anyone else dripped on their scrunchies? It's probably just me.
I don't know. I feel like I would be doing it too.
I'm going to get a little creative. I'm going to use my safety pin. Beautiful. Oh gosh, that worked out very nicely. And I'm attaching. And pressing and holding. And if you have a lot of glue and you get like, oh my gosh, it's gluing together this huge seam, I'm going to have this large kind of, I don't know, ridge. Don't worry, because I had the same thing with this scrunchie, but you can actually pull apart the seam a little bit and it will flatten out those huge grooves. That's the cool thing about glue too. You couldn't do this with a sewing machine with thread because where the thread goes, it's very permanent, but you can always pull up this a little bit and open up your scrunchie. Okay, I think I'm on my last portion for gluing. And let me just a little dabble doer. Because again, I'm trying to fix my mess up. Perfect. Imperfectly perfect.
Well, that's the nice thing about the scrunchie is when the fabric bunches up there, you won't even be able to tell.
That's the thing. Yeah, this is why I love this craft so much. Okay. So I just finished that seam and we have one place left to go. So you can just tuck this in when you're ready and I'll do it. I'll wait a little bit longer, although I feel like I definitely took my time. And again, I'm not pulling these out until they're completely dried. I'm actually going to leave it pretty crusty until it's ready to go. until I'm confident that it won't like open up excessively. So I think, do you guys think we're ready to finish our scrunchies? I think so. All right, so we have these two little flaps, these two little flippers here. I'm going to tuck one in and tuck the other one in. So I'm tucking both in. And what I'm going to do is really just glue these sides together. It's kind of like a old, like those paper fortune games that you would play. Rachel, do you remember those?
Yes, I do. Yep, where you folded it in and then you could put it on your hand and yeah.
So I'm just going to dab my glue right here. And smush and hold. And hold. And I think 3 more seconds and I feel as though that's pretty good dried. Cootie catchers. Yes, that's what they were called. Gosh.
I think the kids call them something different these days, but that, yeah, that's what they were called in my time too.
Cool. Well, that's basically, I don't know, she's a tender glue, but congratulations everyone. You've just made a scrunchie and she's gorgeous. Oh, we just called them fortune tellers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what they're calling them now too.
Yes. So welcome. Well done. Well done all. This is a basic scrunchie. And you can definitely put it on our wrist. And Laura, also, if you don't like having the seam on the outside, you can always rotate this around. So maybe have your seam on the inside. So, oh, stunning, stunning.
I like it, at least on the camera, it kind of matches your shirt too. The colors coordinate.
Oh, nice. Do we love this or do we love this? Well, I'm really curious. Does anyone want to showcase their completed scrunchie or the colors that they chose? I'm really wanting to see these different ones.
Haven't had a lot of questions, so it'd be fun to see some finished products.
It is a very straightforward craft, which is probably why Laura trusted take care of it. But yeah, and again, one thing that Laura also does, if you like making hair things, she also makes really cool scrunchy headbands. So you can take this tube and instead of putting elastic inside, you could put it through like a headband that you don't like to wear. And then you have this huge, stunning scrunchy headband. That's really just a crown. Ooh, Jessica, can I show mine and my mom's? Yes, please. And since I have the power, I'm going to use it.
All right.
Okay, Jessica, you should now, so I made you a panelist. And you should be able to share your screen or open up your camera. Hi,
there
Jessica.
She is.
Let me quick spotlight your video. Oh, those are gorgeous.
Those turned out really well.
Oh my gosh. We are not worthy. Why didn't you guys teach the class? I love the fabric on the left. Very cute. Looks awesome.
Nice job.
Oh no, it looks like someone else commented they were missing the elastic, but in a pinch, elastic from the disposable mask works great. Oh, that's so good to hear. I'm sorry that it didn't work. Or that it wasn't in there. I will say also, if you guys want to grab some more kits, we do have additional ones at the library that were not picked up. Great. So does anybody else want to show their scrunchies this evening? No pressure, but you're more than welcome to. Or if you have any questions about the scrunchies.
Well, I hope that's because everyone has successfully made their scrunchie and now they're off to try it out.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rachel, do we want to talk about next month's Crafty Adults?
Of course. So, as I said before, it's an ongoing series. It's next month, we'll be doing another event on Wednesday, March 9th. So 4 weeks from today, and we're going to be making these rainbow keychains that you see on your screen, hopefully. Laura's going to be leading us in those, and we'll do it virtually this time too. That'll be starting at 7 p.m. again. That registration will open up on March 1st at 9 a.m. So you can get signed up there. And if you want to check out our online calendar, you can see a full list of our events. That's just at champaign.org/events.
Thank you so much. And I love someone says my fabric matches my shirt today. That's marvelous. And just a quick, I couldn't not talk about this since I'm the business librarian. We have a thriving art and maker community in Champaign-Urbana, and as individuals who make lots of really crafty things, if you've ever thought about maybe selling them in a market or maybe doing an art grant somewhere, an exhibit, a farmer's market, feel free to come to the Artpreneurship Making the Cut. It's going to be an amazing panel on February 21st at 7 p.m. of some of our local market organizers. So like Anna Gutsch of Mistletoe Market, Maria Madison of Buy Back Shambana, Rachel Lawrence Storm of the city of Urbana, and then also Kelly Strong, who does 40 North. So it's going to be really fun. And if you want to maybe get into the whole side hustle of making your own things, I encourage you to join us. Great. So Rachel, do you want to finish this out? Because I don't know if we'll have any questions tonight.
Of course. Let's see. Yep. In the chat, we've just got some thank yous. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We were happy to have you and happy to be here. Just to let you know, a few of the other resources we have here at the library, we always have a live chat during our open hours on our website. You can also email us at that email on your screen if you ever have any questions about Crafty Adults or any of the other programs and services we offer. And we also do book a librarian appointments where you can schedule a one-on-one consultation with one of our librarians. And the address for doing that is right on your screen there, champaign.org/book-a-librarian. Any idea when the next Cookies and Canvas will be? I couldn't say yet. I think that's usually a winter event, but as we finalize the next few Crafty Adults events, we'll get those on the calendar and we'll let everybody know what those will be.
Great. I'm glad it was a fun mother-daughter activity. This was really fun to teach and pretend we're crafty.
All right, Madeline. Well, I think it looks like we're ready to wrap up if you're ready to wrap up.
Yeah, I think we're all good to go. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us tonight. And we had a wonderful time. So thank you so much.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.